Okay, I'm here with my buddy Momo. This is Momo. She's got a stick in her mouth, so she might not participate a lot in this video, and that's okay. In this video, I'm going to go over some tips and tricks you can use if you have a dog that's fearful of or reactive to other dogs. Now, as a behavior specialist, what I found is that most dogs are not actually aggressive, they are fearful. And when they lash out, they bark, they lunge, they growl, that causes the other dog or person or skateboard or whatever it is to move away. In other words, the dog is trying to increase the distance between them and whatever they're fearful of. Well, we can do that ourselves. So if we are, if like I'm walking and I see that she gets uncomfortable and she's about to start reacting and I move her away, she doesn't have to react. So real quick, I'm gonna talk about a couple things, body language. So she's got something in her mouth. A lot of dogs that are reactive or bark a lot, we'll have people bring a toy with them or give them a stick on a walk. Oral pacification. Works for humans, works for dogs as well. So we just saw a couple dogs, she did great. Now, dog body language. If you see her lips pulling way far back, that can be a sign of submission. She was sent to a board and train, and I'm pretty sure that she was, that they used some aversive methods with her. I was trying to do a find it game on the floor, and she just really became unsettled and wouldn't just, you could tell she was very uncomfortable. So what we want to do normally is, when we're looking at our dog's body language, the first thing I do is I look at the dog's mouth. Now, right now her mouth is occupied, but a lot of times dogs have an open mouth. Now, they can also have a closed mouth that doesn't have to always be open. But if I'm a dog that goes from an open mouth to a closed mouth, that can be a big warning. Dogs also, and dogs give a lot of cutoff signals and warnings that we are just oblivious to. Now, the mouth is just one thing, but they can have a closed mouth to start off with and mean they're not reactive. I look at the mouth as an open or close. If it's open and it goes to a close, that I take as an indicator, potentially. Eyes, look at her eyes. They don't look, they're blinking, they're not hard, they're not huge saucers. Hard, unblinking eyes that are staring is a big warning as well. Her ears look neutral right now. A lot of times when they're uncomfortable, the ears will rotate back. Let me see, what else? They breathe heavy or hold their breath. They lean towards things or lean away from things. The tail. Momo, let's show them your tail. So that is about her tail, but right now you see her tail is tucked. So if a dog's tail is going up, that's alerting. I call that flying the flag. Up and still, that's a warning. Up and quivering, but straight up, also a warning. Now, if this is the dog's spine and the dog's head is here, and this is the tail, she has a tail that normally kind of goes and swoops out at the end. That's what we'd like to see, just like that. So in the middle, coming off her spine, that's what we like to see. If it is tucked up between her legs, she's trying to cover her anus so that the dogs can't smell that she is fearful. And so, sit. Yes. I also like to use a sit as an indicator. We'll talk about that in a second. The dog just walked by, she didn't even notice. All right, so the tail is more, people think the tail means happiness. The tail is really more of an indication of the dog's energy level. It's how it's wagging and where it's wagging that's more important. So if your tail is up, alerting, down between the legs, insecure, we'd like to see in the middle. So if this is the spine, this is the dog's head, we'd like to see a tail like kind of wagging in the middle, which it was a minute ago when I pointed out. If she just relaxed and neutral, it should come down and then have a little bit of swoop out. If you see it between her legs, that's edging towards that uncomfortable body language. All right, dogs are normally what I also call wiggly and jiggly. Are you wiggly and jiggly? Are you wiggly and jiggly? And she looks a little bit stiff and still now. And so that's an indication she doesn't feel super comfortable. It's also one of those things where it's hard to read in totality all at once. So when I'm reading a dog body language, I look at the dog's head, or I look at their tail, or I look at their overall posture, or their breathing, and then I go look at the next thing. Now, a lot of times when dogs are uncomfortable, they will give those warnings, and we often misinterpret those as aggression. Oh, bad dog, don't do that. Never punish a dog for growling or baring its teeth because it's saying, I feel uncomfortable or I disagree. If you punish a lot or disagree, your dog will stop doing it. And instead they'll go straight to a bite without any warning. That's very dangerous, and unfortunately I've had a lot of clients who've done that. What we want instead is her to think that if I give a cutoff signal, my mom is gonna move me away from the thing. I give cutoff signal 1, most of the time we think of the outburst as the first cutoff signal. That's like number 25. So if you see that she gets stiff, her eyes get big and she closes her mouth and she starts staring, and I move her away from the other dog, she doesn't have to do anything else. Oh, I was uncomfortable, mom took me a place where I was comfortable, I don't have to react. Now that's management and maintenance, which is really important. We don't want her to practice it. But what we would like to do is have her, and this is why we're doing it here. We were just at Palisades Park across from the ocean, but we weren't seeing a lot of dogs, and it was a little bit further away from her home. This is nice because we have a little place that has limited field of vision. There's visual acuity that way and that way, but she can still see out. So what I could do, and we were using this with a clicker, I call this click for looks. It's technically called the engage-disengage game. So I want to orientate Momo. Momo, puppy, puppy, touch. Yes. So I'd like to orientate her so she's looking this way. Of course, she's looking at the camera because she's a Hollywood dog. No, she's looking at her mom. When mom's doing this, she's probably going to be here. So I'm guessing at like 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock is when there is a mother load of dogs that are walking by. Probably all the time, but that time is probably going to be really key, or like early in the morning. So if you're positioned out here and I have a clicker and she's looking in the opposite direction, let's say she's looking there, you're doing such a good job. And you see a dog. So let's say I'm her, and here's my hand is the dog. So she hears the dog, she looks, you click when she looks, and you're standing right here. She turns away and you put a treat in her mouth. She looks back at the dog, you click, she turns away. She click, turns away, click, turns away. Now the dog is out of sight. So what we're doing is we're helping her say, if you just look at another dog, you get a treat. You know the dog can't get to you because we've got a security fence. We don't need this, but it helps in some regards. And what you might see is after a while, she's kind of curious and she's leaning to go that direction. Now, if the dog out there, and Momo does a good job of matching Momo, puppy, of the other dog's energy. So the other dog is calm, she's calm, the other dog's excited, she's excited, and that's very normal. Yes, that's celebrating. So instead what we want to do is, if you see a dog coming by and it's bouncing and going crazy, you might take a half a dozen paces back here so you're increasing the distance for her. If another dog's walking by calmly, or it's an older dog just walking nice, then you can come a little bit closer. Eventually, you would be on the other side of this fence. And you can do the same stuff that we're doing here at Palisades Park. What I'd recommend you do at Palisades, now when we're standing, the dog thinks we're there temporarily. When we're sitting, we're gonna be there for a minute. Now be careful, because she does have a tendency to lunge after the squirrels. I don't wanna have you break your arm. Now they do make a little, it's like a corkscrew that you can screw into the ground, and you can get a short cable. If you got one that's maybe 3 feet, maybe about that long, screw it on the ground, and you're sitting down on the ground, if she does take off after a squirrel, she's not gonna be able to break your arm. Now again, when we're doing those sort of things, I like to have the cord that has bunginess to it. So when she lurches, that was very good. I don't have my treats with me. But if she lunges and that bungee at the end breaks the descent, so she doesn't have a jarring experience, it kind of slows her down. All right, so right there, those dogs, when that dog saw her start barking and reacting, then you can move further away, and she says, hey, mom's taking care of me, put me in this good situation. But the idea, what we're trying to do is rack up as many points, as many clicks for looking at the other dog as we possibly can. You wouldn't know it, but she is very protective and guarding of people that come in here. I just met her a couple hours ago, but we set up a really good greeting, which we'll talk about in the video below this one. All right, so basically what you want to do is you got to think about offset. So right now, every time she sees a dog and lunges at it, that's a score against what we're looking for. Every time she looks at the dog and you click and give her a reward, that's a positive score. So I'd like you almost to keep score. When you're out here playing this game, just every time she looks at the dog and clicks and you give her a treat, yes, that's 1 point. And then she does it again, click, another point, another again. And then let's say that you weren't paying attention, the dog comes up and rushes up and she barks at him, that's a point against. So at the end, we'd like to see our score, depending on how long you're doing, 20, 30, 40, 50 to 0 is our perfect score. Now, this is a pretty intense activity. I like to call this riding the roller coaster. I don't like riding roller coasters, but if you do ride a roller coaster, you're sitting on your butt, but you probably burn like 100 calories in like 2 minutes because of the intensity. This is a pretty intense exercise for the dog. So it's important we don't do it for too long. So what I do it is, and the nice thing about doing it here is the dog walks by, she sees it, you get her a couple of positive interactions, then the dog walks away, she can catch her breath. At Palisades, if you're doing this, I would probably, if you're sitting down and people are just walking by and you find a distance where she's comfortable and she stays sitting and lying down, you can do that. But if you're standing, you might have to ebb and flow. You might have to walk a little closer to the other dogs or away from the other dogs based on their energy. Now, our goal is that she doesn't react at all. But a goal is eventually we want to get her closer and closer and closer. Now, there's a couple other things we can do. There's something called a parallel walk. So let's say that I'm here with Miss Momo, and we're gonna walk perpendicular. Let's say there's another dog that's walking on the path and I'm on the grass at Palisades Park. And you see that they're coming, you get to see them from a long distance. You're like, I like that dog's energy. That has a good, nice relaxation. It's a dog that she's reacted to in the past, but they're walking at a nice pace and they seem to be paying attention. So when they get here, I get up and we just start walking with them. So they're here, we're all in the line this way. Nobody's in front, nobody's behind. Now, if she starts giving cutoff signals, so she's uncomfortable, you start increasing the distance away. If she seems relaxed, then gradually we get a little bit closer. Now be careful, because we don't know what the other dog is going to be like. And if somebody gives you a dirty look and asks you to stay away, obviously increase distance. But there's going to be a lot of dogs walking out. Another way, we're walking with this other dog. Now, we can give little, if she's got something in her mouth, remember to pet her with when she looks at the other dog. But if we're just walking along, we can give her treats when she looks at the other dog. But if we're just walking and let's say she's got in her mouth and she's just practicing walking, what is she doing? She's practicing walking next to the other dog without being reactive. And she likes walking. Nothing bad is happening. So we're creating a positive emotional response. The trainers they went to before had her using a prong collar. There should be another video about where I explain why those are bad, because they create a negative association. There's no collar that stops dogs from pulling on a leash. So what I'd like to see you do is, depending on your work schedule, see if you can come and spend maybe 5 minutes here. What time do you get home from work usually? Or do you work from home?
Yeah.
If you can come here like at somewhere between 4 and 6 and spend a good 10 minutes, have a whole bunch of treats, and try to get 20, 30, 50 positive clicks, and then you go back upstairs, and afterwards, do something that she really likes. Give her some nice pets, play fetch, because this is hard for her. Sometimes it's brave for her to go up and meet another dog. And so we want to let her know, hey, we put a little bit of hard work in, and afterwards I'm going to scratch your butt in all the places that you like. Yes, I am. And so that she has a positive experience and doesn't mind doing this again. If we do it for too long, I stop petting. If we do it for too long, then it can be overly taxing for her, and that can create her into a negative. So we always want to end on a positive. So basically, and this technique is called the engage-disengage game, and let me explain the disengage part. So the first part is if I am Momo, I look at the other dog, you click for me looking, and then I turn away and get the treat. That's engage. We're rewarding the dog for looking. Well, the disengage part is, let's say after I've done this, is what's going to happen is, let's say I'm here with the treats. I look, click, treat come. Look, click, treat come. Look, click, treat come. Well, after a while, I'm going to look, and I'm just going to look away, anticipating that treat. When that starts happening, that's a disengage. So now when the dog looks and looks at me, now I click for looking away from the dog and get a treat. And when I look back, that dog might be gone. So these are multiple ways of helping your dog have a positive emotional response. This is looking at the dog gets a response, or looking away from the dog gets a response. In the park, we can do the same thing. We can also walk alongside other dogs at whatever distance I need to manage so that Momo feels relaxed and comfortable. And then gradually we'll get closer and closer. And if you do it at the same times, you'll start noticing people are walking the park at the same time. You might make some friends and walk along. And after a while, it's like, oh, that's Junebug. That's your friend, and then she might actually make some friends. She doesn't have to. Once dogs turn 2 or 3, most adult dogs are friends with the dogs they're friends with and their puppies. They're not really that open to new dogs. Some are, but the majority are not. And a lot of us think, oh, my dog doesn't want to make new friends. We make most of our friends when we're younger as humans. Dogs are kind of the same way. All right, well, this is my beautiful girl, Momo. Look at that good sit she offered. And these are some tips and tricks you can use if you have a dog that's reactive to other dogs.